On today's Locked On Nuggets, we're going to talk about tone. What's the right tone the Nuggets need to set for this season? It's actually, I think, a really important question. Swipa and I'll break it down. Plus, is a Jamal Murray revenge season loading? Will it be against me? All that and more on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making us your first listen every day, being with us Monday through Friday. Glad to be back in the habit with you, hanging out with you. Media day on Monday, training camp on Tuesday, all throughout the week, and then a preseason game at the end of the week. You have Nuggets basketball in 9 days. 9 days until Nuggets basketball returns to your life. And we'll be with you every single step of the way here on Locked On Nuggets. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. I write for the Denver Dig. I write for Hardwood Paroxysm. I am the co-host of Locked On NBA Daily. And I'm a contributing writer over at Fansided. I've been covering the NBA for 17 years and the Nuggets this will be my 14th season covering your Denver Nuggets. I'm the old head in the media.
Wow.
Room.
Yeah, we were talking in a different platform yesterday. I asked him, what was it like covering Jackie Jordan Curse in the Olympics in '86?
Yeah, I'm now the guy to get the old jokes, which is not great for me. Not enjoying that phase of my life.
You're what, in your early 40s, mid 40s?
Early 40s. Let's keep it early. I got
and y'all don't sleep. Matt's been working out so hard. By the time we get to the end of the year, Matt, it might look like you're in your 30s again.
Let's hope I can keep it up because I have been putting in the work. It's been muscle watch season for me this summer. That's Swipa. You can catch him on Player's Choice. You can catch him the press room. You can catch him all over the place, as well as post-game shows after every single Nuggets game on his channel, youtube.com/SwipaCam. He does our YouTube shorts, which you should be watching and checking out those on your YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. We say that. It really does make a huge difference. It helps us get our show in front of new people so that they can enjoy all the great content we bring you every day. Thanks so much for being with us. Chat's already bumping. Glad to have you guys with us here on a Thursday. On today's show, we're going to talk about Jamal Murray and the idea of a revenge season with the ESPN ranking and all the good videos that we've seen of Jamal looking slim and fit and ready to go and what the season kind of means for him. But I want to start today because I think this is a really great one, because I asked Swipe what we want to talk about today, and he brought up, kind of what are we expecting at media day? And then he said what the tone will be. And that's what I want to talk about, because I think this is actually secretly extremely important. In 2023, there was a tone set on media day that they came in and it was like, we're going for it. This is the year we are going to go for it. And that was to a man all the way down the roster, coach, front office, training staff, analytics, players, everybody was like, this is it. And that tone was set of what they're expecting. And they knew it was going to be long. They knew the road was going to be hard, but they were locked in with that kind of tone. I have some thoughts on especially how leadership needs to shape this and why that might be a struggle. But I first want to ask you, Swipa, there's a lot of ways that you can take, we're going for it. You can take it super professional. You can take it super intense. You can take it, we're going for it in terms of we're going to try and manage the season and stay healthy. There's all these kind of ways you can approach it. What's the tone that you want to hear on Monday when we get to media day?
Well, non-Jokic answers?
Yes.
Okay. Because we know Jokic is going to be like,
that's what I want to talk about next. But let's talk about non-Jokic answers from coach, GM, and players.
Well, I think Adelman said this a few months ago that he is expecting a level of competitiveness that has not been on the team since 2023. One of the first things he noted after all of the ascensions or signings rather to the roster is that he wants to see a different kind of spirit in how people are battling, fighting for playing time, and positioning themselves to be ready to try and get minutes on this team. Because as of right now, based on kind of where the roster is, hey, Jalen Pickett, if you want to play, you're going to have to prove your stuff. Peyton Watson, if you want to play, you're going to have to prove your stuff. Deron Holmes, if you want to be not just the 11th and 12th man, you're going to have to prove your worth. I think this also applies to Julian Strawther. Like Julian Strawther, we brought in a veteran. Like, you have to take a leap. You can't shoot 34% from three. You can't shoot 29% from three. There's a level of professionalism we need. You can't get every time they do the top lock at the top of the key to try to get you exposed on somebody. You got to be able to cover those coverages right. And I think a lot of this is how disciplined and how committed will you be? Because I think oftentimes last year they would wax and wane in their attentiveness. Now, Porter was a big reason why. Porter is just, can be a space cadet, sometimes. That's just not like he does that sometimes. Like I rewatched game 5, they're running the 2-3. There's nobody in the corner, but for some reason he's staying out there, and then Shea throws the oop to Isaiah Hartenstein, and everybody's just looking at it like, why are you out of position? I think Porter not being there, Cam Johnson being there, a higher level IQ, and also, Matt, remember the Young Man in the 3 episode that Cam Johnson did, one of the first things he said about why he's excited to be in Denver. I'm tired of, when it comes to be playoff time, I'm watching everybody else compete and give their best at the highest level. I'm hungry for that. That's what I want again. I want to be in that situation again. Tim Hardaway Jr. has done a lot in his career. He didn't get a contract extension. I thought he was phenomenal last year with Detroit, especially how they used him offensively to offset Cade Cunningham and Tobias Harris. He wants a new contract. He's never won a ring. I think this is a new opportunity for him. Jonas Valanciunas, this is going to be the most he's ever come off the bench in his career. He has never come off the bench more than he did last season. He's coming off the bench every game Jokic plays and every game he plays, which would be 60-plus games, Lord willing. That's going to be a different thing. But how much do you want to prove that you're still one of the 30 best centers in the league? I think all the way around, man, I just think the tone of the team is a lot of it's coming from the newcomers. But I also think from the people that are already there, Jamal Murray, I think this is big for him, especially given how last year ended. Matt, it never gets talked about, but he was horrible in Game 7. And some of that was just the whole team was just like bogged down. I think Aaron Gordon's hungry. Aaron Gordon was injured at the end of the season. I think he had injuries throughout all of last year, only played 51 games last year. His defense wasn't what it used to be, at least 2 years ago. I just think the competitiveness, the fight, the tenacity, the purpose, I think all of that, Matt, this should be like a rekindling, not of something that was lost, but our goal is to be the very best. When we have what we need to be the very best, now it's time for us to go out and prove it, and that starts in training camp.
So there's an interesting kind of corollary here based off of pressure and the effect that has on a long regular season. I want to ask Swipa about that, but we'll do that coming up on Locked On Nuggets. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Love the Broncos this week. I do not think that this is a bounce-back spot for the Bengals. I do not think that they are in Denver's weight class. I do not think that I think this is the exact type of game where Bo Nix looks great. The defense looks like everyone thinks it is. It's going to look awesome. I think they're going to cover their number here, -7.5. I love this spot for the Denver Broncos. think it's great. I'm on the Baltimore Ravens this week to get a big win as well. I also think that there's the Houston Texans. I love this spot for the Texans. 0-3. They are not as bad as that record shows. Lots of great opportunities. And you can bet on touchdown scores as well at FanDuel. Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making this part of your day. Swipa and me, Matt Moore, with you on a Thursday, talking about the tone that needs to be set for Media Day. So I think this is one of the tough things is they learned after the title, it was like, God, that was just such a long season. And it was like, it's such a grueling long time that there is this kind of, we can't push too hard. And veterans always talk about this, about don't ever get too high, don't ever get too low. Just like keep steady every single game, win, loss, whatever, stick to your process, keep trying to be sharp. But I do think to your point last year, the waxing and waning, I think was a lot of built off of, we can take our foot off the gas a little bit here. Nope, we're not quite good enough. And that's going to determine a lot of this is like, if they're good enough, then they can maybe manage the effort they got to put into. But no matter what that effort level is, that was, to me, was the problem last year, is even though they won 50 games, it felt very often like they weren't trying to meet a standard of excellence, even if it's like mitigated across opponent and rest and travel. They were just trying to do whatever the minimum possible was to get the win. And that left it open to too much chance. Like, it left it open to too much variability. They got to raise that up and be like, we're going to be at a slightly higher level. But you talked about stuff with like Jamal and all of and like the new guys, all of these types of guys. I do think it's an interesting question of, is putting pressure on yourself counterproductive when you got to make it 6 months? Like, how do you apply and have that focus of feeling the pressure to drive you towards discipline without having it wear on you and cause diminishing returns in your performance?
Yeah, I think there's a difference between putting pressure on yourself and holding yourself to a standard. I think that effort is more about what you believe about the moment than it is anything else. And so I think the Nuggets last year, they tried to, just lollygag their way. And I mean, like, just literally, like, they weren't playing defense. They wouldn't sprint. They wouldn't do the rotation, especially when you got to the end of the year. I mean, the defense was just horrible. And it starts at the top, obviously, with Jokic. I mean, the Washington game, we remember Alexander Sarr, the three-pointers, all that kind of stuff. I think the Portland Trailblazers game, the one where Russell Westbrook got beat over the top from Anthony Simons. There were too many moments last year where they didn't seem to care enough. And them not caring, that works at times when you have like a supreme talent advantage, but you don't. And the league is too good now for you to do that. And I think last year they were just really, I think the Calvin Booth, Michael Malone situation had a lot to do with this. Me personally, I think just the culture of the Nuggets last year was just bad. The infighting between GM and head coach. Who's going to play the young guys? Are you going to play the older guys? Who gets say here? Who gets say there? I think all of that affected the mood of the team. And I think obviously Jokic was extremely frustrated, all of that. So some of this to me is not about putting pressure on yourself to be perfect every day. But I do think you can't just like not play defense. You can't just not make rotations. You can't just not have effort. You can't just not sprint back. And I think some of that is you have to be able to be more appreciative of, I think, the opportunity that's in front of you. So for me, that's not necessarily about pressure, but I do think there needs to be an understanding of, would the better word, Matt, maybe be like a sacrifice? Because ultimately, like, I feel like a lot of defense is covering for your teammates. And a lot of defense is trying to protect each other. And if you don't play on a string defensively, then you're leaving not just yourself exposed, you're leaving other people exposed on the defensive end. And I think when you don't run and you don't get to your spot and you don't move and you're not where you're supposed to be on an action, if you're playing up on the level, okay, that means weak side, you got to be there. You got to catch them early. You can't let them get too deep. Otherwise, you're going to get scored on and then our rotations are going to be bad. I think all of that for me is about how much are you willing to give to make sure that your brother is situated as best as possible. But maybe that's just me.
So actually, I'll push back a little bit here because I think a lot of this is a lot of bad outcomes happen in NBA defense when you try and cover for your teammate too much. Your scheme is going to oftentimes be built to allow for, if we get beat, we're giving up this type of shot. And what I see a lot is, especially with the switch scheme, is that what happens is you switch because the whole advantage of switching is you don't have to send help. Everybody's contained. But then a teammate notices, oh, he's on a bad matchup. I got to go help him. And now you've defeated the entire point.
Well, I think you maybe taking a little too literal. I was more so about doing your individual responsibility, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. And I think this is kind of is like,
sure.
But I think is kind of a good example. Well, and here's another one is like, hey, if you want to stay true to, hey, we're going to have a high level of accountability and effort and discipline. Some of that means being really narrow and sticking to the game plan and not freelancing as much as I think that they did last year, especially on the defensive end. We said all like the non-Jokic, and like this is an area that I think is worth talking about. Is Nikola is going to say like, well, we'll see. if you tell Nikola anything is true on paper, he's going to be like, okay, but like, I don't think Nikola cares about the stats. I don't think he cares about what's on paper. I don't think I just don't think he thinks that way. And so he's always going to kind of be like, well, we'll see. But I also think it's important. He sets this tone as being the guy that is the best on the team. And he sets the tone in terms of his work ethic. I also think that he's probably got to set a tone in terms of he's got to be open to being a positive force this season. I just think that to me, it's not enough for him to be an all-world talent. I don't just say well, he's just the best so that he can do whatever he wants. I am of the opinion that all right, but you're the best player in the world and you're paid like it and you're given the ball and the responsibility and the opportunities and everything that comes with it. You're also responsible for things like keeping an upbeat tone, being a positive force. And you could still have a high level of accountability, but I think that somebody's got to bring joy to this team. And I think that Nikola has too often fallen into the trap of just being miserable throughout the NBA season because it's such a grind. He's got more talent around him. He should feel better now. If he's not, then that's a different issue, right? But I do think that his tone matters with setting the right approach for this team this season. And I don't think I go back and forth because it's if he's always demanding more, that keeps the pressure on the guys, which is good. But I also think that his game is such that I think he needs to inspire a little bit of joy. And I think both those things matter.
Yeah, I feel like that's a little bit too on the extreme because Jokic, we've seen many periods where he's been upbeat and I think really cheered on the competitiveness. When was the
last time?
Yeah, so one of them was when I remember in the 2023-24, they went on that 17-3 run to close the season out. Right. There was absolutely a level of
verve,
Sombor pride, that was kind of emanating from him. And then obviously that was the big text message, saga of let's go get another one, guys. Right. Get one for the Gipper. So I think he's come out in press conferences. He's never been a big rah-rah. But we have seen him many times say, hey, we're just playing really good basketball. We're connected. We're playing for each other. We're playing with each other. We have each other's backs. So everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. That's how Jokic, on the positivity scale, at least from a front of the camera standpoint, that's about as far as he will go.
Yeah.
But based on his teammates, though, I mean, based on what Peyton Watson has said about him recently, even in some of the interviews, he's behind the scenes super funny and engaging and kind and they joke around all the time. But I think do you think more so on camera and when it comes to the media press conferences stuff, are you looking more for some of that?
No, I will tell you that you can say that, but the tone from people behind the scenes last year was Jokic is miserable and
everyone was miserable, to be fair, though, last year.
I get it, Cam, but
yeah.
Well, again,
but last year I think Matt, that's where the extreme comes from me. They were in a extremely toxic situation.
I agree.
And I think Jokic carried the brunt of that burden.
I agree.
And had to go out and excel and put on a Superman cape every night. I think that was the least enjoyable kind of basketball for Jokic.
Yeah, I think it's just the difference between us is you're willing to forgive him for those things because of the circumstances. And I'm your job is to transcend the circumstances.
Who transcends toxicity?
Damian Lillard.
I mean, I just don't agree. I mean, I think even Dame tried. But even Dame, he absolutely tried his best. But I think at the end of the day, Dame is I think Dame also carries a little bit. But I think that's the problem. It's hard for me, at least for me, to be in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
I have never carried that much weight in my life, right?
Yeah.
So I do. It's just
I get it. I'm not oblivious to these things. It's less amount of what's fair because you're talking about what's fair, and I'm more about okay, fair or not, this is what the team needs.
Do you think LeBron has carried that well? Because when his team has not been good,
no.
But I think wouldn't you say that's kind of the burden of LeBron, for instance? LeBron has carried more weight than anybody other than Jordan, probably.
Yes. But I also think there have been players who have transcended that. I think there have been players who have been in the situation who have, just because LeBron hasn't. Well, I think it's impossible.
Steph Curry hasn't either, because Steph Curry has absolutely been complaining behind the scenes about a lot of stuff.
But I will tell you that's different though, because Steph will complain about things directly to management about we need this or I'm frustrated with this, rather than being miserable in the locker room. Steph's always like a very even keel, pretty positive, happy guy.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it could be a personality thing. I guess.
I think it is.
Yeah.
You know, and I get the idea of like being like, wait, I'm sorry. You want him to be the best in the world, be the best player on the team, score the most, assist the most, rebound the most, and he's going to be chipper while he's doing it. I get that. Like, I get it. Right. But if they want to go where they want to go, I do think that setting the tone, and I'm always going to say the best players have to set the tone. You can't rely on other people.
To be fair, Kareem didn't handle that responsibility well either.
No, he didn't.
And neither did Bill Russell, to be honest with you. One of the reasons
I think Kareem's a little overrated.
Bill Russell didn't either, but to be fair, Bill Russell was in a much different time. Like,
much different.
I'm not happy to be here.
Coming up, Jamal Murray is ranked what many are saying is an insulting number on ESPN's rankings. I obviously had him lower. We talked about that. I'm probably going to move him up again. Is this a revenge season? Jamal's looked good in the offseason workout vids. What does this mean? We'll talk about that coming up on Locked On Nuggets. You know, when I found out SKIMS was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so you got to give it a try. Let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. Lots of people have issues with underwear, fit, comfort, just finding the right style, but SKIMS changed all that. Their men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. If you try out, let's say, the cotton 3-inch boxer brief, all our fellow dads out there could probably relate to this. Underwear drawers haven't had a good update in quite a while.
Yeah.
I was always partial to something simple and classic when it came to my underwear. So I was never sure what I was doing when it came to replace those old pairs. But then I tried the SKIMS Cotton 3-inch boxer briefs, and it's everything I've loved about my classic boxer briefs, but honestly better. Perfect weight, the perfect cotton feel, and the design is nice and simple how I like it. For now, this dad is going with SKIMS.
Is this the leopard print one that you were telling me about?
Yes, actually. That's a very popular one in the house. I make growling noises, actually. Shop SKIMS Mens at skims.com. Let them know we sent you. And after you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys.
So we all have different SKIMS, by the way. I have like a all jet black one. He has the leopard. Ryan, I believe, has the hot pink. I think I remember was the color that he shared. And so he said "grr" to you, Matt Moore, about your.
I mean, I went to Mizzou. I am in fact a Tiger. Jamal Murray has been popping up in videos. Looks great. Looks slimmer. There's a lot of talk about where he's at in the ESPN rank and how low he is and how that's insulting and needs to be higher. Now, obviously, like, I had him way lower. We talked about that when the Locked On NBA 100 came out. I'm going to move him up when I do my Elite 100 in the next coming weeks because I was wrong to have him as low as I did.
Where did you have him?
I have to look it up and take a look at it, and I don't have that sheet open right now, but I had him, I think it was in the 60s maybe. It was too low. It was too low. I know. I got it wrong. Sometimes
59. Ryan said 59.
Sometimes you're wrong. Yeah, 59 sounds right. And a lot of it is, for me, is honestly, the problem with this is if you take the number, it's like, oh, that's so insulting. And then for me, it's like, okay, but who's he in front of?
This is after somebody up here said Jamal Murray was the most impactful player in a series this year.
Yeah.
And he had him at 59.
He was. I didn't like the, you know what? A lot of it's because I factored in availability and consistency, right? If we just do a playoff list, and this is, I think this is where you and Ryan are actually very closely aligned. Is you guys are very aligned on, well, the playoffs are what matters, and I'm like, yeah, but you got to get there. Like, all these other games matter and count, and so I'm not gonna skip over that to get to the playoff version. If we do a playoff version, then Jamal's like inside my top.
Where did you have Aaron Gordon in? Was he higher than Jamal?
Yeah, he was like.
Well, then how would he be higher if he played 30 or 15 less games and was worse in the regular season context?
Let me look up where I had him real quick. So I'm not speaking out of turn. No, he was 2 spots behind him.
I'm about to say, yeah. So, I think that was my ESPN thing. They weighed so heavily the game-winning shots and everything from Aaron Gordon, and all that stuff. So, like, I definitely think Jamal should Yeah, I definitely think Jamal should be like. So you had me at 18 2 years ago, and now I'm at 46 next to Embiid.
Yep.
Okay.
So I do think that this is an interesting situation because I think Jamal's at his best when he's like up against it. And I do think that the title fundamentally changed him. Big Honey says, Matt, why do you think Norman Powell is better than Jamal Murray? I no longer do. Like I've had to wrestle with that one and been like, man, I can't say that. Like that's just dumb. So look, he's more available. He had a really great. He had a great
start to the year. Yeah. And then tailed off as the year went on.
I mean,
please.
But Jamal had the opposite. Do you remember how many shows we did?
No, trust me. D'Angelo Russell, Jamal graphic. That was me. That's how bad he was playing to start the year off. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I get it, and I'm willing to say, I get things wrong. I do. I get things
not
wrong.
often. You absolutely cooked this playoffs, though, Matt. You were cooking this whole playoffs.
But I also just think that a lot of it for me is I would rather put Jamal lower rather than build him up based off of what he can be. Okay, do I know that the 21-6 thing is really interesting because he averages 21-6 every single year, 21-6, 22-6 this year.
Yeah.
Do I feel like I know I'm going to get that every single night for him? No, I feel like I'm going to get 30-5 or I'm going to get 17-8. And that variance is to me is like, look, if you're able to consistently get, if it was like, hey, you're going to get 23-6 out of him every single night, you just plug it in. That changes the conversation for me. But I am just going to be curious about what Jamal's reaction to this thing is, to this whole narrative around him, because he does notice these things and he does tend to be a guy that wants to prove people wrong. And I think after the title, he was like, you can't say nothing to me. I want a title. I want a title, 30 on 50, 40, 90 versus the Lakers, 30-point triple-double versus the Heat. He was so great. And I think that he really did kind of I don't have to prove anything to anyone. I'm certified. And he is. But now it's all right, but in the moment, are you certified? No one's ever going to be able to take away what he did in those playoff runs. No one's ever going to be able to take that away. No one's ever going to be able to take away.
Jamal Murray made a shot.
No one's ever going to be able to take that away. But if he wants, I still think that there's so much for him to do. He can have a better second half of his career. He can have an incredible second half of his career. You can't be bringing Ryan into these conversations. Ryan, no matter.
Ryan is no longer the Jamal guy. He's the Christian Brown guy.
He says that, and yet, you could just tell. You can actively feel every single time that any criticism is lobbied against him. Ryan, his hand involuntarily goes to the sword and the shield to protect him.
He said, "I'm just sharing my article. I'm just plugging it. That's all." Well, but to be fair, all right. Will you feel better about Jamal if he comes out versus the Warriors and Wolves and just cooks? Because we haven't seen him start a year off just cooking,
yes,
ever really.
Yeah, I would love to see him have a phenomenal November. I would love for it to be Jamal Murray is in the running for NBA Cup MVP, even if they don't want to win the tournament. I think that'd be awesome, right? And it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter less. The games at the beginning don't matter less than the games at the end. I want to be very clear on this point because some people will get that confused. Well, no, it's how you play at the end of the year. Lie. That's a lie. How you play in March, in my opinion, matters way less than how you play in November. Set the tone for your team. Come out and be no. I'm doing this thing. I do have this question for you, though, Cam. How would you feel if Jamal had an all-star caliber season, but he was breaking the offense a little bit more? He was freelancing a little bit more. He was taking over a little bit more. And if they're winning games, this is the big one, because anytime that they lose, it's why didn't you give the ball to Jokic? I could see the swipe a cam notification.
Nope, that's not true.
My Twitter page pop up.
Nope, not true. Not true. Jamal, do it. Everyone wants him to do it, by the way, Matt. I think, except for Serbians, everyone wants him to do this and to be successful at it. Matt, don't you feel like Nuggets fans as a whole want Jamal to take a step and become a more dominant player? I don't think anyone would be complaining about that. If Jamal was I don't even know, who's Damian Lillard? You remember Dame went out Giannis last year, was 34-7-7 on 50, 40, 90. He ain't got to do that. You don't have to do that. But if Jokic, matter of fact, man, let me tell you how simple it is. If Jokic sat down at the top of a second quarter and Jamal for the first month was basically bet this is my team, and he was giving you 6 points to start, like 6 points in the second quarter. He was making that his quarter. That is his time. He was dominating. Head to tween, pull up, head to tween, get to the rim, head to tween, pass, like pick and roll, navigate, mid-range, navigate, floater, pick and roll, too much space, sidestep, step back, three. Yo, I'm telling you, like, everyone in Denver would love that. That's the issue, though, Matt. He doesn't do that, but it doesn't mean he can't. Jamal's going to be 29 years old in February. He's almost 30. I think everybody in Denver, if you asked them in 2020, Matt, what Jamal was going to be, that's an all-NBA player. The issue is Jamal has not yet reached that point where he maintains that level of play as it should be expected of him, given his talent. If Jamal Murray lived up with his talent, bro, I mean, Denver would be ecstatic. Everybody wants Jamal to be great. I truly believe that. Everyone wants him to be great. But the issue is that Jamal has just, he's waxed and waned. And more so than other guards, Matt. It'd be different if other guards didn't do that. But more so than other guards, his floor is lower than those players. And I think he needs to put himself in a conversation. Again, not needs. If Jamal Murray was more aggressive, became a more contemporary 2025 guard, hijacked, quote unquote, the offense on good efficiency, Jamal Murray efficiency, and was going to the bucket. Remember, Portland happened in January. That game was in January. He had 55 points. And then he had a 43-point game versus Dallas after Shaq said something to him when he said he didn't hear it. Matt, if Jamal Murray starts the year off, he has a 40-point game in the first week. Oh, come on. It's a good night. Good night. He never, I will be curious, Matt, you and your detective skills, what's the earliest he's ever scored 40 points in his career? I would love for you to find that out. I
mean, you have Ryan's number. If you text him, he's going to know it off the top of his head.
Ryan, you can hear it. Matter of fact, Ryan, what's the earliest he's ever had 35 or more points, and when did that happen? Remember, go ahead.
No, so I get, these are all I agree with you on all this. Ryan thinks it's just about threes, which I just don't. I think that's so process ignorative. I can't get around it. Like, Ryan's like, if Jamal shot 8 threes per game, he'd make an all-star team. Just do it. I don't agree with this. Like, if he's taking 4 pull-up transition threes per game, is that good process? No, it's not. It's not good process. That's not going to get you there. If he's coming off clean, one of the questions I think for him is, and what I want to kind of point this out. To me, I think Jamal has quietly turned a corner versus the elite defenders. I think we've seen in the Clippers series, to a degree in that Thunder series, you're right, he was bad in Game 7. I feel like Jamal is getting better at now breaking these guys where it was like they would just shut him down. And on top of that, the fact that Nickeil Alexander-Walker no longer plays in the Western Conference, that's a big thumbs up, right? Because now the Wolves are going to be in a much worse matchup now with Cam Johnson, who can actually dribble and get out.
Goodness gracious. Yeah.
So, to me, there's like an opportunity. I think Jamal is turning the corner on. He doesn't need the easy, clean stuff. And he's always been a tough shot maker, but his decision process is always, I think, a little bit more complicated than we think it should be. And I don't know if that's fair given the difference between us.
So just for context, Jamal, since the 2023 run, he's only had one series that was versus the Clippers. He was a plus 1.3, where he's been like a plus efficiency scorer in the playoffs. So I do think that Clipper series, he was definitely better in. The Thunder, remember, Matt, if Jamal finished that Game 5, because him and Jokic were cooking through 3 quarters, and then Jamal face planted in the 4th quarter.
I'm sorry, I'm not gonna let you.
No. I'm just reminding you. There's
how you've thrown yourself in front of the train for Nikola.
What does this got to do with Matt? You gotta stop. This ain't got nothing to do with that. Ryan, do you hear this, man? Literally, all you just said.
We gotta go. We gotta wrap this up. We gotta go.
No. You just said, we're arguing now. You just said that he's played great versus elite competition. Ryan, I bring up the moment that he could have closed the door for. Man, this is the problem with Matt right here. Matt wants to hold everybody accountable. Matt wants to hold everybody accountable in Jokic, but when it comes to Jamal, protect Jamal. Protect Jamal. Protect him by any means necessary. What did you want him to do, Ryan? He shot the ball. How'd you get to make the shot? You just missed shots. Well, guess what, Jamal? Make your shots in Game 5 the same way Matt would say of Jokic in Game 3 and in Game 4. Make your shots, then the series changes. So this is what I'm saying. Exactly. Protect the 59th best player in the league, Matt Moore. Come on, man. Stop it.
You know me, notorious guy that Jamal loves. And
you're doing it. You've been doing it since the playoffs. You have absolutely been doing it since the playoffs.
The earliest he's had, I defend him against unfair criticism, just same way.
There's no unfair criticism for a $52 million player.
Yeah, they're the same way I defend Jokic against unfair criticism.
What is the unfair criticism of Jamal from last year?
What?
By the way, I think he's better than Aaron Gordon. I had him higher than AG. But what is the unfair criticism about? That's what I'm saying. Help me understand. What's the unfair criticism of Jamal? Help me understand that, please. Because you just said you want him to start off better. He needs to start off better. You want him to start off hot. So, like, tell me, what is the unfair criticism?
I think early on in the season, there's a lot of unfair criticism. I think consistently he gets criticized for not being in shape when he's injured. When it's just like he has.
Sure, that's fair.
I think that's unfair. I think there is a tendency, and I see this, like, part of this is just like I see this across with other teams, of the superstar can't be at fault, so the second guy is who always winds up getting it. And I'm always like, well, okay, what do we really reasonably expect? You don't have to laugh at me. Like, I can have an opinion.
No, I'm saying, but like Jokic did get blamed for why they lost to the Thunder.
On player's choice, yes. And I know that that's why you react this way, but that's not, I don't think, the reality.
But if you go to even NBA Twitter, they're not bringing up Jamal. No one even remembers what Jamal did in game 5 at the end of the game, or game 7.
But I think Nuggets fans did.
I mean, yeah, but that's like they're the fan base that are tapped into the game. You think he was unfairly criticized?
No, I don't. The earliest Jamal's had a 30-point game is December 28th. He has never had a 30-point game in October or November in his career.
In his career?
In his career. Via... Oh, no, wait, that's wrong. That's wrong. I had the filter on wrong. I apologize. I had to filter on just the season because that's what it defaults to on StatHead. He had in November, his career high in November is, it's great podcasting, 48 in 2018.
Yeah.
He has 4 other games in November. The earliest is 11-11 in the month of November. Let me see what his best performance in October is. And in October, he has never had a 30-point game in October. So the best
that's
is
like a week of basketball for the most part.
It's not much. Yeah, for sure. So I think that's fair. Okay, that's gonna do it for Locked On Nuggets. When I get yelled at,
pack last 3 minutes.
When I get yelled at for this episode being too long by Nick Angstadt,
you blame me.
It is not my fault. Hope you guys have a great Friday. Swipa and Ryan will be back tomorrow. To talk more as we get set. On Sunday night, No Jinx Media Day preview. I'll be at training camp next week. Lots of stuff coming for you. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll see you guys again next time on Locked On Nuggets.
Jamal Murray made a shot.